The U.S. government has released the names of 3 troops killed by an enemy drone attack in Jordan on Sunday. Sergeant William Jerome Rivers, 46, Specialist Kennedy Ladon Sanders, 24, and Specialist Breonna Alexandria Moffat, 23, were killed when a drone hit their housing unit. The U.S. has blamed Iranian-backed groups, and the Pentagon said it carried the footprints of Kataib Hezbollah. The Pentagon also reiterated the U.S. does not want a war with Iran, adding that the 3 soldiers killed came from an Army Reserve unit based in Fort Moore in the state of Georgia. Well, for the very latest, I'm joined now from Tel Aviv by Ariza special correspondent Karl Bostic. Karl, good to see you, and thanks for your time. Well, there's a lot of developments since the last time we spoke concerning the incident in the Gaza Strip. Now, let's start by talking about that special operation carried out by the Israeli forces in the hospital.
Soleimani, yes, you're right. That's very right. In fact, I'm just thinking about comments made by the Qatari Prime Minister Mohammed Al Thani, who was visiting Washington, who basically spoke about the crisis overall in the region. And what he was saying is that right now the crisis, the region is dancing on the edge of a crisis that could spiral out of control. What we saw in that video that you were showing, out of Jenin, the West Bank, in many ways was a preview of what Israel perhaps would like to see happen in Gaza. In other words, while Israel, officially saying that we don't want to be guys, running Gaza on a day-to-day basis, but we want to have the right to militarily control it. And that's what we saw in this video. Essentially, what you had happening was an undercover team of Israeli military disguised as an old man, an old woman, one even carrying a baby carriage, but also brandishing weapons. And they came in the middle of the night, and they went to the hospital in Jenin in the West Bank. They went to the 3rd floor because they were targeting 3 individuals. One was a Hamas member. The other 2 were members of the Islamic Jihad. And they are saying that they were on the brink of, preparing an attack on settlements, Israeli Jewish settlements, similar to October 7th. So it was a preemptive attack, and they entered the room in disguise, and they used silencers, and they killed them on the spot in that room, and they left as quickly as they arrived. That's what happened, and that could be kind of like the preview of what they want to see happening in Gaza. Basically saying that if we see a threat that's imminent, we're going to take preemptive control. That's what's happened here. But it also says this. It's part of the West Bank. The West Bank is under the control of Palestinian Authority. And what Israel is saying is, we don't trust the Palestinian Authority to maintain control over its own towns and cities. It's a failed authority. That's why it needs to be revived and overhauled. And that's why we're not sure if they're the ones to manage Gaza going forward.
And Karl, Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that, he's ruled out freeing terrorists as a means of truce between the Israelis and the Palestinians.
Well, you need to also look at this. Maybe that's a reason why Secretary of State Anthony Blinken is making another visit to Israel over this weekend. It'll be his 6th visit to Israel since the war started. So when you hear Prime Minister Netanyahu speaking, he's speaking to a lot of different audiences, Suleiman. This is a coalition government that's hanging by a thread. He only has a majority of about 20 seats. The Knesset is 120 seats. Together with the coalition, they control 64 seats. 6 of them are held by a far-right extremist party, which basically has said that Gazans should be deported or voluntarily migrated, and that there is no way that will agree to, quote, a reckless deal that would include freeing all Palestinian prisoners, those kinds of things. So you have to kind of wonder, which audiences Prime Minister Netanyahu is speaking to, because there's also his political survival at stake. That's where, domestic politics come into play. And that's why, a reason why Secretary of State Blinken's coming here, because no one's talking about really the day after. How do we ensure peace and stability for the Palestinian conflict, that allows them to actually have an independent state. And yet, here you had a conference on Sunday where cabinet members were actually openly declaring that, in so many words, over my dead body. There's no way we will allow for there to be a sovereign Gaza or a sovereign Palestine state, and there's no way in which we'll allow Gazans to live there. We want to repopulate them. In fact, why not even once again resettle Gaza? And the U.S. Western governments are very alarmed by this, because what it shows is just how much division is, not only with the government, but also with Israeli society, because depending on who you talk to, even liberals are saying that they simply want to have control over Gaza and don't want this threat again. It's a moral dilemma, because meanwhile, you've got more than 130 hostages there. And the big question mark is, how much is the price too high? Because people are saying that we owe a debt to them because the state failed to protect them on October 7th. And that's why we should put a pause and do whatever it takes to get them out. And then if we start a war again, we should be ready to do that.
Well, Karl Bostic, many thanks. Well, Arise News special correspondent Karl Bostic live in Tel Aviv.